Hello, welcome. In today's video, we're going to be talking about failure, that big scary word that can make you feel bad. I'm going to give you the great news that failure does not exist. Let's chat about why. So I'm going to talk first about what my life used to be like, talk about failure, and then talk about what my life is like now to give you an insight into why I think that failure doesn't exist. Or at least failure is not the end of the story. If you've been watching some of my other videos, you will know this, and if you are new, hello and welcome. I am an alcoholic and I have just celebrated 1 year in sobriety. My life a year ago looked very different, and 2 years ago, again, very different. I remember having a conversation with my mum. Well, it wasn't really a conversation. I was drinking, as I was in my addiction, and she said something that broke through the wall of kind of nihilism and apathy that I had built up around myself. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you've ruined your life." If we're going to talk about failing at life, I mean, what else is there? What bigger thing is there than someone saying you've ruined your life? And it was a moment that was really scary for me because it was something that I thought myself, but to have it confirmed by my mum was really, I don't even know the right word to use. It was really difficult to hear. Think about one of your biggest insecurities, and maybe you think that it's something that you're hyper focused on that maybe no one else notices. Maybe you don't like the shape of your eyes. My eyes tilt downwards and I've got hooded eyes. Maybe you don't like your ears or your eyebrows. Take something like that and you might think, oh, I'm hyper focused on this. I don't like this feature on my face, but no one else probably notices. It's just because it's my face and I have to deal with it that I'm obsessed with it and I'm overthinking it. No one else probably notices. And then to have someone you love comment about, oh, your ears, or make a comment about your eyes, suddenly oh no, not only is this something that I think, the people that I love also think this thing. But imagine that, about your life choices, not just about the way that you look. So I'd already been thinking to myself, gosh, life isn't going the way that it was supposed to. I guess I was just still trying to live in denial. I mean, a lot of addiction is you're living in denial. It certainly was for me. To have that confirmed by my mum, this thought that I'd ruined my life, it was really hard to deal with. The thing is that she was right. If I look at my life then, it was the definition of a ruined life. I was sort of like, how did this happen? How have I ruined my life in this way? Because I was just sort of stagnating and going nowhere. That's for another video. This is the thing where if we're going to think about failure, in that moment, yes, I had failed. It was true, I had ruined my life. But that wasn't the end of the story. Yes, if I'd stayed like that, I guess you could have said that that was a failure. Failure is the wrong word for this kind of situation, but do you know what I mean? It was failure of mine to live in reality, which is what my recovery has been around, facing up to things, not procrastinating, dealing with emotions, all of these things that I would run away from. I now have to, I now have responsibilities, people can rely on me, I am dependable, but that's also quite difficult at times. And it's just about being a grown-up and being a responsible adult, and I wasn't able to do that before, and I didn't want to do that before, and I was running away from my life basically. It was a failure of sorts. What's the quote? Failure isn't falling down. Failure is staying down. It's not failure if you try something and it doesn't work out, or you mess up, or it doesn't go as planned. That's not a failure. It's a failure if you then fixate on that thing and let that thing define you and let that impact the rest of your life or the rest of your choices in regards to whatever situation we're thinking about. Then that would be a failure. But failure is not in falling down, failure is in staying down. So if we come back to what my life was like, you look at my life now, I look at my life now, and it is not a failure. I've recently got back some marks and it's the highest marks I've ever got. So, I mean, that's not a failure. I, in the last year, have made new friends in sobriety. I've lost weight. I've started going for a walk every morning with the dogs. I am responsible for all kinds of things. I've started this YouTube channel. I wouldn't have been able to do this when I was still in active addiction. I mean, I could have, but I'm glad I didn't. I still worry about the memories people have of me of when I was drinking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was able to black those things out because that's what alcohol does. But I'm like, oh my gosh, the memories some people have of me. And imagine if I'd had a YouTube channel and I was posting this stuff online. Oh my gosh. So thankfully, no, I had not started a YouTube channel. That's something I've done recently. But all of the things that I'm doing and thinking ahead, planning, I have dreams and ideas and I'm being creative. None of these things you would look at that and be like, oh, that's someone who has failed at their life or they've ruined their life. No, my life is in a very different position now to how it was a year ago, year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when my mum and I had this, I don't want to call it conversation, it wasn't really a talk. You can't really talk to a drunk person about these things. I could kind of relegate it to unreality, most of the conversations we were having. But this one, you've ruined your life, really stuck out to me for the reasons we've talked about. Like, failure doesn't exist because you decide whether it exists. So say you start a YouTube channel and it doesn't go how you thought. You don't progress as much as you wanted to, or you don't find an audience, or you feel like you failed, maybe because you didn't reach a certain number of views in a 24-hour period or something. You're like, oh, no one watched my video. It's like, yeah, you just started. No one knows who you are. No one's gonna watch. You decide whether you starting a YouTube channel is a failure. Failure doesn't exist unless you let it exist. So if you start your YouTube channel, it doesn't go as planned, and you then give up, technically, yeah, that is a failure because you may have set out with a certain goal in mind and then you gave up, so you failed. But you also made that happen by allowing it to happen by not taking action. So failure doesn't exist unless you're letting it exist. If you, the same example, have this YouTube channel, you post your first video and it doesn't do as well as you thought, you might think, oh, okay, well, what can I learn from that? And then you make another video, and you make another video, and you make another video, and you try something new every time. This is what I've been doing, trying different things, even just really subtle things like, oh, I'm gonna change the music, or I'm not gonna have music for this one. I'm gonna change the font, I'm gonna change the description, I'm gonna change the tags, I'm gonna change what I wear, or I'm gonna change how I plan it and how I structure the video, like just really tiny things. And each time you're changing things up, no matter the results, you're still going. So you're not failing because you carry on going. Because the failure is not in the falling down, it's the staying down. If you give up on something, then yeah, I guess technically you have failed. You have allowed that to happen. But that doesn't have to be what happens. So when I think about my life, I guess the YouTube thing is like a superficial example. Like that, it matters, and I'm really grateful for this channel, but if we're talking about versus my life, I mean, it could have gone very badly wrong. I just think if you're in a dark situation where you feel like you failed, or you're at a point where you feel like you should have achieved more, everyone else has something better than you, or everyone else is ahead of you and you're feeling behind, you don't have the whole story. You're still in the middle of it all, and you can decide whether you're going to stay in that dark place or whether you think there might be hope and there might be a possibility of you getting out of that darkness. And even just imagining that possibility shows that there is a bit of hope. And even if you can't imagine it, which I've been there as well, the fact that you just keep going, you're not failing, you're not behind, you're not good enough, you are good enough. And just by showing up every day, as imperfectly as that is, whether it's just you literally got out of bed today but you just sat in your pajamas and didn't leave the house, you still got up. I just really wanted to make this video about failure, redefining failure, exploring the idea that maybe failure doesn't exist. I think there's something there. It really just started with, yeah, the conversation I'd had with my mom coming back to me. It actually happened because I was writing a blog post and I was remembering this conversation, this thing that had happened with my mum where she said that she thought I'd ruined my life. I was writing this blog post and so it came up and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting thing to look back on. Because yeah, at that point in time I had ruined my life. But I look at my life now, you wouldn't say my life was ruined at all. I think it's about perspective and it's about time and it's about hope. These are all big things. I could make whole other videos on them. But yeah, I do have a blog. I have a website. This blog post that I wrote recently, it's entitled 1 Year Sober. I did do a video 1 year sober. They are completely different if you want to check out that. The website is juliaroseadastra.com, the same as my channel name is Julia Rose Adastra. I will also leave a link to it if you want to check it out. That has been like a dream of mine before even starting this YouTube channel. Like I've always wanted to have a blog. I can remember even like 8 years ago wanting to start a blog but being too scared, so the fact that I've done that is pretty cool. I mean, again, that, if I had never started it, that would have been a failed idea. Having a blog would have been a failed idea for me because I didn't start it. The fact that I have started it kind of doesn't matter if no one reads it. I mean, I hope people do, and I'm hoping to be able to use it going forward and to just build another skill. But again, the fact that I'm just showing up and doing something, it means that I haven't failed. Like failure, as we've said, is not in falling down, it is in staying down. I hope this has brought you some encouragement. Please feel free to subscribe and please leave a comment below if this has affected you and what you think. I would love to know your thoughts. God bless, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.